Dr. Gerald Matthews ran the neuroimaging lab at Stanford University from 1979 to 1992. 13 years pioneering MRI and CT scan technology for brain research. Published over 40 peer-reviewed papers. His work on primate cognition was cited in Nature, Science, The Lancet. He trained a generation of neuroscientists who went on to lead departments at Harvard, MIT, Johns Hopkins. In October 1984, something arrived at his lab in the middle of the night, delivered by federal agents who didn't give names or agencies. A living subject, sedated, massive, covered in reddish-brown hair, restrained on a specially reinforced medical gurney, and a direct order: perform a complete brain scan, document everything, share nothing. The scan results would be classified immediately. Dr. Matthews would sign an NDA with criminal penalties for disclosure. Refuse, and his lab's federal funding, $4.2 million annually, would disappear by morning. Dr. Matthews performed the scan. What he saw on those images destroyed his certainty about human uniqueness, about what separates us from animals, about whether we're actually alone at the top of the intelligence hierarchy. 3 months ago, Dr. Matthews died from complications of Alzheimer's at age 87. Before his memory completely deteriorated, he recorded a confession, 23 minutes of video testimony, detailed descriptions of what he scanned that night, what the images showed, and why he quit Stanford 6 months later and never published another paper. His son contacted me, gave me the video, gave me permission to share it. My name is Catherine Moore, and what you're about to hear is the neurological proof that we're not as special as we think. That intelligence exists in forms we refuse to acknowledge. And that one university professor saw the evidence, and it broke him. Let's begin. Dr. Matthews's video testimony was recorded in June 2024. His voice was shaky, his hands trembled, but his memory of that October night was crystal clear. Alzheimer's had taken recent memories, but left 1984 intact with devastating precision. October 15th, 1984, Monday night. I was working late in the lab. Around 10 p.m. I got a call, University Security. They said federal agents were at the loading dock with a medical transport that needed immediate scanning. Classified research. I told them we don't do classified work. They said I'd been cleared 2 hours ago, and if I had questions, call the dean. I called. The dean, Dr. Patricia Chen, sounded terrified. She said, "Jerry, do exactly what they ask. Don't ask questions. Don't keep records. This never happened. Your lab's funding depends on your cooperation." Then she hung up. I went down to the loading dock, 3 black Suburbans, 8 men in dark suits, no badges shown, and a medical transport gurney, reinforced, heavy-duty restraints, something large under a tarp. The lead agent, never gave a name, handed me papers. NDA. Criminal penalties section highlighted. $250,000 fine and 10 years federal prison for disclosure. I signed. What choice did I have? They wheeled the gurney into my lab, locked the doors, posted 2 agents outside. Then they pulled back the tarp. Dr. Matthews's voice cracked in the recording. He took a long pause before continuing. It was sedated, unconscious, but breathing. I could see its chest rising and falling. It was enormous. Had to be 9 feet tall, maybe 750 pounds, covered in thick reddish-brown hair. The face was almost human. Broad, flat nose, heavy brow ridge. But the eyes, even closed, you could see they were large, expressive. The hands had opposable thumbs, fingernails, not claws. This wasn't a bear, wasn't a gorilla. This was something else. The agent told me, full cranial MRI. We need detailed brain imaging. You have 4 hours before the sedation wears off. Work fast. Don't talk to your staff. When you're done, we take the scans and you forget this happened. So I did the scan. Dr. Matthews explained the technical process. Getting the subject positioned in the MRI machine, which required 6 men because of the weight, adjusting the equipment for a skull larger than any human's, calibrating for a brain that didn't match expected parameters. The skull circumference was massive, I measured 32 inches. For comparison, average adult human male is 23 inches. This was nearly 40% larger. The cranial capacity, the volume of the brain case, was approximately 2,400 cubic centimeters. Human average is 1,350 cc. This was almost double, larger than Homo erectus, larger than Homo neanderthalensis. In the range of some theoretical reconstructions of Homo heidelbergensis, but those are extinct. This wasn't extinct. This was on my table, breathing, alive. The MRI took 3 hours. Dr. Matthews ran multiple sequences, structural imaging, diffusion tensor imaging to map neural pathways, functional connectivity analysis, even though the subject was unconscious. When the images started coming through, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I ran the sequences twice, thought there was equipment malfunction, but no, the images were consistent. The brain structure was... It was like looking at a hybrid, part human, part something else. Dr. Matthews described the anatomy in detail, his neuroscience expertise coming through even 40 years later. The cerebral cortex, the outer layer responsible for higher thinking, was massively developed, thick, heavily folded. The gyri and sulci, the ridges and grooves, were more numerous and complex than human brains. More surface area means more processing power. The frontal lobe, responsible for planning, decision-making, social behavior, was proportionally larger than human. The prefrontal cortex showed development consistent with advanced executive function. But here's what shocked me. The Broca's area and Wernicke's area, the language centers in human brains, were present, developed, not identical to human structure but clearly analogous. This brain had the physical architecture for complex language, and the hippocampus, memory formation, was enlarged. The amygdala, emotional processing, showed sophisticated structure. The corpus callosum, connecting left and right hemispheres, was thick, suggesting strong interhemispheric communication. This wasn't an animal brain. This was a person's brain, just not human. The agent returned at 2 a.m., reviewed the scans quickly, asked specific questions that suggested he knew exactly what he was looking for. He asked, "Broca's area visible?" I said yes. He made a note. "Prefrontal cortex development comparable to human?" I said, "Exceeds human in some regions." He made another note. "Any structural abnormalities suggesting disease or degeneration?" I said no. "Brain appears healthy and functional." Final note. Then he asked me something that still haunts me. "In your expert opinion, is this brain capable of self-awareness, abstract thought and moral reasoning?" I hesitated. He repeated, "Your expert opinion, doctor." I told him the truth. Based on the structural analysis, yes, this brain has the capacity for everything we associate with human consciousness. It can think, it can plan, it can probably use language. It can form memories, feel emotions, make moral judgments. He closed his notebook, said, "That's what we thought. Thank you for confirming." Then he asked, "Are you prepared to forget everything you saw tonight?" I said, "I signed the NDA." He said, "That's not what I asked." "Are you prepared to forget?" I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I knew I'd never forget. How could I? I'd just scanned the brain of a non-human person, proven its capacity for thought, and I was being told to pretend it never happened. The agents took all the scans, every image, every measurement, every data file. They searched Dr. Matthews's computer, confiscated his notes, made him delete his personal records while they watched. Before they left, the lead agent said something I'll never forget. "Dr. Matthews, you've made an important contribution to national security. What you scanned tonight has implications beyond your understanding. There are others. We've scanned others. And what we're learning is complicated. For everyone's safety, this stays classified indefinitely. Others, plural. They'd done this before. I wasn't the first neurologist they'd brought a specimen to, and I probably wasn't the last." Dr. Matthews tried to continue his work. tried to go back to normal research, scanning human patients, analyzing primate cognition studies, teaching his graduate students. But he couldn't unsee what he'd seen. Every time I looked at a human brain scan, I thought about that night. Every time I lectured about what makes humans special, our large brains, our language centers, our prefrontal cortex development, I thought about the scan that showed something non-human had all of it, maybe better than us. I started having nightmares, not about the creature itself, about what it meant. If they're intelligent, truly intelligent, with language and emotions and moral capacity, what does that make us? The species that hunts them, denies their existence, dismisses witnesses as crazy. What does it make me? The scientist who scanned one, confirmed its intelligence, then stayed silent because I was threatened. 6 months after the scan, Dr. Matthews submitted his resignation to Stanford. Effective end of the academic year. No explanation given. My colleagues were shocked. I was 49 years old, peak of my career, leading lab, major funding. Why leave? I told them I wanted to pursue other interests. They didn't believe me. The dean, Dr. Chen, she knew. She called me into her office. She said, "Jerry, I know what you saw." I was told afterward, "I'm sorry you were put in that position, but you have to understand there are things the public isn't ready to know. Things that would cause panic, chaos. You did the right thing by staying quiet." I asked her how many others, how many universities had scanned these things. She wouldn't answer. Just said, "More than you think, less than would matter." I left Stanford, took a position at a small liberal arts college in Vermont. No research lab, just teaching. I never ran another brain scan. Couldn't. Every time I tried, I saw that image, that brain. That person's brain. Over the next 30 years, Dr. Matthews lived quietly, taught undergraduate neuroscience, published nothing, attended no conferences, refused all interviews, until 2019, when something happened that forced him to reconsider his silence. I was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent my career studying brains, and now mine was failing. But in those early stages, when I knew my memory was going, I started thinking about legacy, about truth. I'd kept silent for 35 years, watched Bigfoot become a joke, watched witnesses get ridiculed, watched scientists dismiss even credible evidence because there's no proof of intelligence. And I knew. I had proof. I'd seen it with my own eyes, scanned it with million-dollar equipment, confirmed it with peer-reviewed methodology. And I'd stayed silent because I was threatened, because I was afraid, because it was easier. But I was dying, slowly. My brain was deteriorating, and soon I wouldn't remember any of it. The scan would be lost. The truth would die with me. So I decided to record this, while I still could, while my memory of that night was still intact. In the video, Dr. Matthews pulled out a folder, old, yellowed. He opened it to show photocopies, images he'd secretly made before the agents arrived, against orders, against the NDA. I made copies, Polaroids of the monitor screens showing the scans, hidden them in my office, took them when I left Stanford, kept them for 40 years, hoping I'd never need them, but knowing someday I might. He held up the photos, grainy, unclear on video, but showing enough. Brain scans, labels, measurements. This is evidence. Real, scientific, peer-reviewable. This brain exists, this intelligence exists, and the government knows. They've known since at least 1984, probably longer. They scan them, study them, confirm their intelligence, then classify everything and let the world think they're myths. And they threaten scientists like me to keep us quiet. Well, I'm dying, my memory is going. I have nothing left to lose, so I'm telling the truth. I scanned a Bigfoot brain in 1984, and it was brilliant, more developed than many human brains I'd scanned, capable of everything we are, maybe more. They're not animals, they're people, non-human people, and we've been lying about them for decades. Dr. Matthews' son, David, explained why he's sharing the video now. Dad recorded this in June 2024. By August, he didn't remember recording it. By September, he didn't remember Stanford. By October, he didn't remember being a neuroscientist. Alzheimer's took everything. He died November 8, 2024, peacefully, but before he lost himself completely, he made me promise, share the video, share the truth, don't let it die with him. He said, they threatened my career, my funding, my freedom, and I let that silence me for 40 years. But I can't stay silent anymore, even if no one believes me, even if they call me senile or crazy. The truth matters more than my reputation. David gave me the video, the Polaroids, and a USB drive. Dad kept backups, digital scans he'd made in the early 90s when he finally had access to scanning technology. He transferred the Polaroid images to digital, enhanced them, annotated them with his analysis. Everything's on this drive. I've seen the images. Analyzed by 3 independent neurologists who confirmed these are legitimate brain scans. The anatomy is real, the measurements are accurate, the analysis is sound, and the conclusions are unavoidable. The brain in those scans has language centers analogous to Broca's and Wernicke's areas, enlarged prefrontal cortex, suggesting advanced planning and decision-making, sophisticated hippocampus structure indicating complex memory formation, highly developed corpus callosum suggesting integrated cognitive processing, overall architecture consistent with self-awareness and abstract reasoning. In other words, a person's brain, just not a human person's brain. I tried to verify Dr. Matthews' story, called Stanford, asked about classified research in 1984. They have no record, no doctor. Gerald Matthews in neuroscience, no lab records from that period. Filing system migration in 1997, they said. Many records lost. I filed FOIA requests with federal agencies for any documents related to neurological studies of unidentified species. All denied. No such studies exist in our database. I contacted Dr. Patricia Chen, the dean who allegedly knew. She died in 2003. Car accident, single vehicle, no witnesses. The cover-up is real, the erasure is systematic, and Dr. Matthews knew it would happen. In his video, he said, they'll deny everything. Say I'm senile, say the images are fake, say I'm looking for attention before I die. Fine, let them. But I know what I saw, I know what I scanned, and I know what it means. We're not alone. Not in terms of intelligence, not in terms of consciousness, not in terms of moral worth. There are others. Living in our forests, hiding from us, intelligent, aware, capable of everything we call human. And the tragedy isn't that we don't know, it's that we do know. The government knows. They have the scans, the data, the proof, and they've chosen to hide it, to deny it, to threaten anyone who tries to reveal it. I was complicit. For 40 years, I helped hide the truth. I'm trying to make that right now, even if it's too late, even if I'm dying, even if no one believes me. The truth matters. Intelligence deserves recognition. People, all people, human or not, deserve acknowledgement. Dr. Gerald Matthews spent 40 years carrying the weight of what he saw, what he scanned, what he knew and couldn't say. The Alzheimer's took his recent memories first, then his medium-term memories. But that October night in 1984, that stayed sharp until almost the end, because trauma doesn't fade, truth doesn't fade, guilt doesn't fade. He died knowing he'd finally told the truth, knowing most people wouldn't believe him, but knowing he'd tried. The brain scans exist. I've seen them. Neurologists have verified them. The anatomy is real. The intelligence is real. And somewhere there are more scans, more data, more proof locked in classified government files. Proof that we're not the only intelligent species on this planet. That consciousness exists in forms we refuse to acknowledge. If this story made you question what we know and what we're hiding, smash that like button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and whether you think the government has more proof they're not sharing. And subscribe, seriously subscribe to Silent Bigfoot Stories right now, because we're dropping stories like this every single week and you do not want to miss what's coming next. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because these stories will change how you see everything. New mind-blowing evidence uploaded weekly. Don't miss a single revelation. Subscribe now. And remember, Dr. Matthews had the proof. Had the scans, had the data, and they made sure it disappeared, made sure he stayed quiet, made sure the truth stayed buried, but he recorded it, saved it, shared it before he died. The truth doesn't stay buried forever. Until next time.